Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. I often get asked about what would be the best deck to play in Hearthstone. What deck should I play to climb to Legend? What deck should I play when I'm facing Hunters and Druids or Paladins or whatnot? What should I play? And while everyone of course has an opinion, and I have lots of opinions, you can also take a look at data. Information about the Hearthstone metagame is collected by various parties through various deck tracker softwares that people are using when they play Hearthstone. And when you're trying to decide what is the best deck to play for you, there are two free resources that you can use. One of them is a heavily curated one, so it basically tells you, okay, you should play this. And you can't really go far wrong with that. They have some excellent curators out there, excellent data gathering, and they can tell you a lot about meta decks. This resource is Vicious Syndicate and their Data Reaper report. And then there is another resource that is going to give you the keys to tons of data, but where you have to do a little bit more work yourself to find exactly what suits better for you. And I actually prefer this resource because, okay, it takes more effort to get some good decks out of it, but you can also find some really nice, bit more off-meta decks from there. And that's something that I enjoy a lot. And this resource is HSReplay. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the most out of these resources completely for free. HSReplay also has a premium subscription which gives you more filters into the data, and while it is useful, you don't actually have to have it in order to find good decks from there. First, let's take a look at Vicious Syndicate. Vicious Syndicate gathers data from Hearthstone meta, from various deck tracker softwares, from people who are volunteering their data for their use, and they curate that data, analyze that data, and tell you what kind of decks are the best decks to play. The upside is that it's very easy to grab a deck from Vicious Syndicate. The downsides are that, first of all, curation takes time. So while they do the analysis, you don't get preliminary results, so you have to wait until they publish a report. For example, right now we are 1 week into Rastakhan's Rumble meta, and there is no new Data Reaper report yet, so I can't use Vicious Syndicate right now to pick a deck for myself. But once the expansion ages a little bit and these reports start rolling in weekly, this is the least effort you can do to pick up a good deck. You can simply look at the Data Reaper report. The most current one here is number 113 right now, which is before the current expansion. And in the Data Reaper report, they show you what classes, what archetypes are popular, and they also show you win rates between these popular decks, and they show you a power ranking. So at the easiest you pick up, okay, tier 1, there's even Shaman, Odd Paladin, Cube Hunter, even Paladin, even Warlock, Secret Hunter on the top. Okay, I will play some of these. But wait, you also need a deck list. Hey, no problem. You just go to the top of the page. There are classes and decks, and you click, okay, I would like to play even Paladin, and there is an even Paladin list for you. These lists are curated by the experts at Vicious Syndicate, and they are good decks. They might not be the absolute best decks, depending on your perspective, but you can't really go wrong with these. That's the easy answer on what to play. But what about if you're a little bit more interested? Okay, well, what kind of other decks are there, and how are all these decks decked, and how do various lists perform compared to each other? If you want to go a bit deeper underneath the hood, then you need HSReplay. HSReplay website, when you enter this, it can look a little bit, well, there's a lot of information for sure. There's live data pouring in, there's some best deck in China rank 9 right now, and that's rotating, and then there's some class win rates. Paladin seems to be on top. This data is more up to date. This is very current. This is actually data from Rastakhan's Rumble, unlike the data that we had on the Vicious Syndicate site. But of course that's only like the first week or two of the expansion, then they catch up and have all the stuff as well. But how do I make sense of this information that I'm presented here? The way I like to use this website is to go to the meta section. The meta section gives you a tier list immediately here. Okay, Odd Paladin, best deck in the game. Then Secret Hunters, even Paladins. But what is this data based on? You can see that from the filters here on the left side. So all the ones with orange are only for paying customers, so you have to have a subscription to this service. Which means that you can't tweak the rank ranges or regions. You restrict to all regions. Typically this data would be for the last 7 days, but every time there is a new patch or a new expansion, they open up another free filter for latest expansion, which is also available to you for free. So this is latest expansion data, all regions, ranked, standard format. This is exactly the kind of data we want. But this data, unlike Vicious Syndicate, this doesn't really tell you what's the best deck to play. Okay, I want to play Odd Paladin. You can view the most popular deck, but is the most popular deck the best deck? Not necessarily. So you have to do a little bit more work to get to actual deck lists if you want to use this service. However, there are some notable upsides, because there are these other tabs also in this section. The Vicious Syndicate mostly tracked meta decks. They wanted to know what are the really best decks and archetypes to play. But HSReplay is tracking a little bit more widely. So if you click on by class, you can get a lot more niche archetypes, types of deck that not many people necessarily want to play. So I want to play Gonk Druid, for example. I don't think Gonk Druid would get a ranking at Vicious Syndicate necessarily, especially seeing as Gonk Druid win rate is 39.8%, which is terrible. Okay, maybe I don't actually want to play Gonk Druid, but thanks to this site I would actually be able to know what kind of Gonk Druids people are playing, even if Gonk Druid would be considered such a meme that serious tracking would not include that. Also, often you might have in mind, okay, I want to play a certain class, I want to play a mage deck. What kind of mage decks could I play? And from here, by class, mage, big spell mages, elemental mages, odd mages, quest mages, tempo mages, you get a lot more variety, you get a lot better view on all sorts of deck that the class has available to offer, and not just the ones that are performing the best. Or another perspective you might have, I want to be able to beat Paladin and Hunter, what should I play? Matchups is going to be the answer to that. So on this page you can see how various decks go against each other, and here you can also see in the bottom you can see popularity. It is actually sorted by popularity. Spell Hunter is currently the most popular class. It would be useful of course to be able to sort this by ranks a little bit and regions, but those are paid features. However, even if you're using this for free, you can still get valuable information from this. So this tells you something about the overall meta, but you're facing a ton of Paladin and Hunter and you really want to beat them. Alright, let's click on custom weights. And then we can set custom weights. We can say, okay, I want the best deck to beat a certain proportion of other decks. In this case, this number here specifically doesn't matter, it's only the ratio between that and the other numbers that matters. So this is now set as even amount of Spell Hunter and Odd Paladin. I want to beat these. Here's an expected win rate, and when I click on that and sort by expected win rate, it actually tells me to play Odd Paladin to beat Spell Hunter and Odd Paladin. Ouch. Beating Odd Paladin by playing Odd Paladin. Not the most funniest thing ever. But it also tells me other things. It tells me that druids in general are pretty good for this meta. Warriors are pretty good. And something like Control Priest. There's a video of me playing Mind Blast Priest, by the way, on my channel, with exactly the same argument, beat up Hunter and Odd Paladin. Yeah, it can do the job. So whether you want to know the best archetype, you want to know what kind of decks could you play in a specific class, or you want to know what kind of archetype you would like to play to beat up specific opponents, all of that information can be found from here. Alright, now we have some kind of idea on what kind of archetype to play, but what exact deck to play. Alright, let's say that I want to play this Odd Paladin. So I click myself to the Odd Paladin. And here I get some additional information. Here's win rate over time, popularity over time, most popular decks. Again, rank ranges filters are available, and here time frames always last 7 days. This is actually important to note, that when you're over on this page, and if you're here when the expansion is really fresh, you arrive from the meta page, which only accounts for the last expansion, last patch, but over here you've had last 7 days, so this might be misleading a little bit. Although overall in general last 7 days is a good filter, it gives you a decent sample size while also being fairly current data. So on this page you can click on popular decks, and here this is the most popular deck, but what is the best performing deck? You can sort by win rate, and if we sort by win rate we actually notice that the most popular deck is not one of the most best performing decks. Instead the best performing deck in ranks legend to 20 is this build. with 66.8% win rate. Sample size of just 540 games, that's a little bit low. This next one at 66.4% over a sample size of 14,000 games looks a little bit more reliable. And one thing that I really like using this page for is also checking for some deck cards. Like you can look at the best performing list and then you can look, okay, what kind of similarities are there or differences. Like there seem to be quite a lot of Prince Liam Paladins here right at the top. And if you have a specific deck in mind, you can get a glimpse and overview of this and look at, okay, where do these cards show up? If they show up in decks that are very near the top, then that's likely a fairly powerful card. If they only start showing up on pages 2, 3, 4, then maybe the specific card choice is not doing as much for the archetype. That's some kind of a rough overview. But as I mentioned, this page is the last 7 days view. And last 7 days might not always be what I want. So I can also take another view of this subject. I can go to the decks page, and this is something that you need to do when the expansion is really fresh, when it's less than a week old. Then you need to click on the decks page, and on decks page you can also, by the way, this is latest expansion filter, you could sort by win rate, so this would give you what it considers to be the best Odd Paladin build right now. And you can also filter by player class, so if I want to look at Paladin, then it also gives me the chance to filter by archetype, so I can choose Odd Paladin. And now it limits all these to Odd Paladins only, and this is now the latest expansion, so this is what you want to use when an expansion or patch is really new, whereas you can use the same view on the meta page when nothing spectacular has happened over the past 7 days. Overall, you want to usually sort by win rate, but you want to pay a little bit attention to the number of games as well, because the bigger the sample size, the more reliable the results. So these are very close in performance with each other, but this one deck has 15,000 games played, so I think this is a bit more reliable than the other results. So let's go take a look at this exact deck. And now we are on the deck page. When you have gotten the overview and decide, okay, this deck looks interesting, then when you come to the deck page, this is some pretty important information right here. Because first of all, it shows you the popularity of this deck over time, and it shows you the win rate of the deck over time. And these of course vary, especially with small sample sizes taken very widely, but that gives you some kind of an idea. Sometimes the win rate graph is clearly going down, sometimes it's going up. You can catch a little bit of a trend there. In order to evaluate whether this particular deck that you're interested in has performed well in the past but is now on its way out, or whether it's doing well right this moment. My favorite filter on this page is to limit the rank rates to Legend to 5. That gives you an excellent sample size while taking away a number of more low-ranked games. Alas, that is an option that's only available to paid customers. After looking at this, the overall figures, okay, this deck looks to be performing very well right now, it's also increasing in popularity right now. Then I'm going to take a look at the overview page. An overview page gives you an idea of how this deck performs against various classes. So here you can see what kind of weaknesses and strengths the deck has, and whether those are in line with what you're expecting to be playing against, and whether that's in line with your expectations. This page also shows you the deck list itself in a very clear format. In order to get this deck list to Hearthstone, the copy deck to Hearthstone button gives you the deck code, and then you just launch Hearthstone and paste it there. These deck information pages also give you a lot more insight into how the deck functions. The Mulligan guide in particular is very useful. There's a lot of data about the deck here. First of all, there's the Mulligan win rate. So this is the win rate whenever you have ended up with this card in your opening hand, whether you kept it or whether you drew it off the Mulligan. But you have the card in your opening hand and how that affects your win rate. And the next percentage is the percentage when the players keep a specific card. So this can give you an idea on how other people mulligan when they're playing this deck. And the next two are very interesting statistics. There's the drawn win rate and played win rate. So what is your win rate when you draw this card during the game? And what is your win rate when you actually play that card during a game? Overall, it is the drawn win rate that is the most important. That really tells you how much this card is helping you win games. But it can be useful to interpret this together with the played win rate. You can have a card with a very high drawn win rate and fairly low played win rate. But if that card is such that it's a swing card, you play that when you're behind, and that card sometimes gives you the win, then that would be the expected behavior. Because then, okay, when you have to actually play the card, it doesn't win you a whole lot of games. But if it has a high drawn win rate, that means that, okay, it's still able to actually win you games more than it just is dead weight. Because otherwise the drawn win rate would also be low. So you want to use the mulligan data to inform your decisions when in a game with this specific deck. Okay, how do I mulligan with this deck? What cards do I keep? And drawn and played win rates are information that you can use to tweak the deck. Okay, this card seems to be underperforming, I want to take it out, I want to replace it with something else. Taking a look at the mulligan win rate, unfortunately this information is not terribly useful. The really good stuff here is paywall gated, I have to say, because you can select your opponent's class here and then you can get mulligan win rates per class, and that is really useful data, because that tells you, okay, how do I mulligan against aggressive archetypes, how do I mulligan against slower archetypes, based on that typically a single class doesn't have all that many various archetypes. But in this general view that's available for free, all of that is kind of gobbled together. So it's very difficult to make a whole lot of sense of this. This overall data is more useful the more aggro your deck is. Because when you're playing a very heavily aggressive deck, then you don't care that much about your opponent now, do you? Because you just want to get your good stuff, play that, go face. So the more aggressive build you have, the more the mulligans are similar across various opponents. Whereas the more mid-range you get, then you have to think about, okay, am I facing control, am I facing aggro? And the more variety there is in your mulligan decisions. Also, there is the limitation that this doesn't tell you how good various cards are when kept together. Sometimes you only want to keep some card when you already have other cards, and that is an aspect that is not clearly visible in these numbers. Anyway, this is a fairly aggressive deck, and Corridor Creeper is a great keep. You have lots of tokens, it's going to become free, it's going to help you swing the game, and you kind of want to keep your 1-drops and your unidentified mole, which allows you to turn those 1-drops into more useful minions. Nothing really unexpected in this one, and because this is a very aggressive deck, then this type of mulligan does apply quite widely. In addition to this finding a really strong deck, let's take a bit of a different approach to this one. What if I wanted to play a specific class? So then I would go to meta and I would go to by class, and let's say that I really do feel like playing Gonk Druid. For whatever reason I want to play Gonk Druid. So then I go to Gonk Druid and I go to check out what kind of Gonk Druid decks there are, and I can sort them by win rate. And I can see that even though Gonk Druid was at below 40%, there is actually one Gonk Druid list that is performing at almost 50%. So even though I intentionally want to play a bad deck, then I can play a little bit less bad of a deck. Let's try to take a little bit of a deeper look into this one, and we can see that, oh dear, actually this has already peaked in popularity, it's going down, and that win rate is not looking terribly promising. Oh dear, is there anything we can do about that? What if I check the next Gonk Druid from the list, and yikes. This graph looks even less promising. The other one at least was, there's a lot of variation going up and down, but this one is just going down. I need to find a different meme to play. Let's go find another meme. We go to meta again, we go to by class again. This time let's try Holy Wrath Paladin, because you can also find Holy Wrath Paladin. This is really the strength of this site. You can find all sorts of decks. If you want the best decks, you can find that. If you want to find a little bit more meme decks, you can find those as well. But the life of Holy Wrath Paladin win rate. Hey, here we actually have decks that have more than 50% win rate. That's pretty interesting. Let's go take a look at inside this one. Well, this was doing quite well for some time, but now it's doing a little bit worse again. What about the other fellows who were doing quite fine here? There's another one. This one actually looks a bit more promising, because the win rate graph is showing much steadier results than the previous one that we looked into. So if I wanted to play Holy Wrath Paladin right now, I might be able to pick up this list and go with it. So there you have it. How to pick decks. Well, you have the Vicious Syndicate site for curated content. Pretty quick and easy way to pick up a deck. And if you want to really look into various other archetypes, or you want to look a little bit deeper into what these decks are made of, then HSReplay can give you those answers. And now that you have learned how to fish, now the world is your oyster, and you can find whatever decks you want using this information. I hope you will find a lot of fun ones. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.